I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. At this time, we will do public comment, and public comment is for only items that are not on the agenda. Do I have any public comment today? Oh, fine.
Good afternoon, Kelly Richards, Business Services Manager for CCWD. I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce our two new accountants here at the district. We have Michael Baer and Kylie Muterdes.
Yep.
And Michael joins us most recently from Volcano Telephone as a senior accountant, and he is joining CCWD as our accountant too. Kylie was most recently a accountant auditor with Calaveras County Auditor Controller's Office, and she has joined us as an accountant one. So I just wanted to introduce them to our committee here and the folks that are joining us today and welcome them to the district.
Well, welcome. You know, we are so glad you're here. I think everybody can say that being short-staffed. Anything you want to say, or are you good? Don't want to put you on the spot. We're okay. We can keep moving
And we've
on.
been waiting for you.
Okay, was there any public comment online? Do you know how to look for that? Is Rebecca here with us? Oh, she's right there. Oh, good. Just in case. Anybody online with public comment? Okay, all right, we're gonna move on. Actually, we'll actually, I'm gonna go ahead and approve the minutes right now, and then we'll move some things around. So can I get an approval for the minutes of February 29th, 2024, Bertha? Or is there
So
any
moved.
comments?
Yeah.
Any changes? Any public comment on the minutes? Seeing none, the minutes of the February 29th Finance Committee meeting are approved. So we're going to move on to new business, and because Michael's not here yet, let's go ahead and move item 3B. And then if we have time, we'll do 3C as well, and then have the monthly reports at the end.
Sounds like a good plan. Thank
Okay.
you. Good to be back up here again. Going to be speaking on an update regarding our past due notice and fee for utility billing. So as we have reported at Finance Committee, actually several times last year, I believe stemming from our July meeting, we've been talking about, reinstating our part of our delinquency process, which was just to include the past due notifications out to customers and then evaluating that to determine whether or not it makes sense to re-implement any additional part of the delinquency process, depending on, trends and whether or not we were able to see any changes in customer payment behavior. So I did just want to provide an update on that. I also wanted to provide an update on the fee that's associated with running that process, because as we know, any service or process that we provide or we participate in, there's a cost to doing that. And
Is-
so we
With
do.
Tyler or somebody else?
Oh, no, just as a district, as a special district and as a public entity, we have to, if there's a cost for running the process, we have to recoup that in some way.
Okay.
And for a delinquency process, it's only affecting those customers who are delinquent. We're running it for those customers who are delinquent. So there's usually a fee associated with that. So I did just want to provide an update. So customer service and finance has been working together to reach the point where we are able to issue those notices and then potentially also assess the fee onto the customer's accounts. So since we last reported on this process back in July, August, and September of last year, we have met with the Tyler Technologies company to establish this particular notice within the system. It was not built within Tyler, and so we had to work with them to establish.
So a lot of people use Tyler. They
Mhm.
have to create a past due notice for each company? I mean, there's.
No, there's
plan thing that you just
templates. There's
dial in? Yeah,
templates.
okay.
And so we used one of their templates, but we have to include verbiage that is particular to our billing. It includes our address and, where we want the payment to be sent, whatever our parameters are for our delinquency process, that
Mhm.
has to be added on there. So it is a template, but we add specifics that, for CCWD. So even though they have the template in there, they do have to take it back to forms development. They have to add all of our information. But then also we wanted to make sure that staff who was going to be responsible for running that process moving forward was working with Tyler in the system to run tests of the process to make sure that it was set up the way we need it to be set up, that we were getting the results that we were looking for, things like that. So we've been working with Tyler over the last couple months to do that. The process has been vetted. The notice has been created. Although we did have a delay on the Tyler side for the creation of the notice within the system for us to be able to use it. So our goal was to bill our Cycle One customers in January and then be able to issue past due notices in February for that billing cycle. And we were not able to meet that deadline because Tyler had an issue on their side. That being said, we rectified that with Tyler. We worked with Data Pros, who is our third-party mail house, who will be sending the notices out for the foreseeable future for us. And then also worked with CPI, Check Processors, Inc., who is our lockbox, who receives a lot of check payments from customers, and made sure that we would be able to move forward with the process and not have any issues. So we've gotten the go-ahead there. Even though the notices were not issued in February for the January billing, we were able to run the process within the system to just estimate what would the impact have been. How many notices would we have sent out at that time? And so we ran the process. There were just shy of 2,400 customer accounts that were still showing past due day after the due date to the tune of a little over $668,000.
Can I confirm? So you
Mhm.
bill Cycle One January, whatever that date is.
Mhm.
And for what months is the service?
That is for the prior 60 days from the date of the bill. So it's in arrears.
In
So if we bill in January, it's going to be from November 16th to January 15th.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
So when we,
And-
Uh-huh.
And cycle one is Valley Springs.
Cycle one is Valley Springs, Copperopolis, Wallace, and West Point, Wilseyville area.
And you bill on the 16th. When is it due?
We bill around the 20th, and we always give a 25-day due
Okay.
from the day that we issue the bill.
Okay.
So there were about 2,400, just shy of 2,400 accounts with some outstanding AR that was about 31% of the original amount that we billed in January. So a pretty high amount of outstanding customer accounts at that time. When we look back historically for this particular billing period with Cycle One, this number of accounts, and it's hard to gauge numerically because rates do change. So I don't tend to look at the outstanding cost as much as I do the number of outstanding accounts. And the number of outstanding accounts is about 50% higher.
Well, what about the aging of these accounts? So somebody might be 1 day late. What
Mhm.
is that average? In fact, that's something I'd like to add, that we get a accounts receivable aging report at each meeting, who's from 0 to 30, 31 to 60, 61 to 90, that kind of a thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we
You
can
know,
do
you
that
don't-
for each cycle.
Yeah.
That's not a
I
problem.
mean, because you should be looking at that, even though these 2,400 customers, but if they never go past, 35 days or whatever, you can
Mhm.
still do some kind of planning and know what.
We can, but for purposes of the past due notice and fee, that happens the day after the due date per policy.
Right.
So this is just speaking to that specifically, but we absolutely
For
can
cash
and
flow.
should be tracking all of our arrearages. Absolutely.
Francisco has a question, then I have a question after he's. through.
Francisco, come up here so everybody could hear you.
Oh,
We like the town hall effect. Thank you, Bertha.
Your percent net bad debt. What is the amount that you currently write off at the end of all of these collection processes that we're getting a little bit of information on?
Do you know that, Kelly? Uh-oh.
the only write-offs that we do on an annual basis have to do with current
fine.
accounts that are delinquent at the time that we send to the tax roll. So they're not technically written off in a sense that we're not going to recoup them. They're written off the account because the debt is no longer ours, it becomes the county's. Oh, that I don't have the percentage. I can tell you what we've done. I can report back at the next meeting and let you know what we have sent to the tax roll annually and what that equates to as far as outstanding
So,
AR,
so. with
which
this
we have
particular-
reported on.
Yeah, with this system, we generally don't not get paid. The county will pay us and they'll collect by the tax lien, right?
Correct.
There's probably some circumstances, the ones that the renters that we can't lien, or do you lien the property owner?
We only
Either-
have agreements with property owners.
Okay,
We
so
do
then
not have
in theory,
agreements with
we're
tenants.
always gonna get paid. I think it's a 1%, 2% fee with the county. So we'll always get paid, just at what point, right? With this, I forget what they call the program, but it works really nice for
It's the tier agreement. Yeah.
for the small districts. We may not get paid right away, but we can also add on late fees, any kind of cost to, and that
Correct.
we incurred. We can put that on the tax roll and we can do that every year. So we'll
Right.
do it, even though we put it on the tax roll, it says that, fees and monthly billing will still continue. So we could do it every year until the property sells, and a new owner comes in. So it's a matter of a cash flow issue and a smaller fee. But we eventually do get that money.
Right. And that's why agencies institute delinquency processes, because they want the cash flow to be regular.
Right.
They want to bill out and then recoup as much of that as possible in as small amount of time as possible. But
Yeah, and we can only do that tax delinquency once a year.
right.
Right. Ah,
Go for it.
okay.
And do we need to have
So
somebody from
Francisco's
commend?
not through. He's got another question.
Yeah, well,
Okay,
if you can only bill the write-off, we'll call it write-off, the tax lien stuff, right? You can only send it to the county once a year. That's typically at the end of the year.
you have to have it by either August, September.
Okay, so so it goes at the end of your fiscal year, because you
Yeah.
go July to June, right?
Right.
And so all of those months, if you're not tracking the aging like these fellows these two folks are gonna do now, you're gonna track that revenue as it goes to delinquency.
Mhm.
I mean, you may be building up a big transfer, right?
Right.
And who's managing that? Because that's gonna take some time to turn around and come back to you at a 2% less rate, right? Because the county's gonna
The
keep
fees,
2%.
yeah. Yes.
But the time value of that money, you're losing.
Yeah.
You don't have it to invest. You don't have, it's at the
Yeah.
county.
Though, Francisco, I believe it's only gotten real bad, I guess you could say, when COVID hit, because we were able to do water shutoffs, right? So by the time you get to a water shutoff, they usually had to pay right away. I don't think we had that many tax liens going, but when we weren't allowed to shut them off, that caused a lot. And now that we can get back into shutting them off, this particular process is going to slow down a little bit. Right now, it's higher than usual, but everything you're saying, yes, we need to track it. And I know in the past, Jeff, the finance director, has always brought it to us every year. So
Right.
they're tracking it. Exactly how that process is, I don't know. I just know when I used to do it, what I would do, but it's being tracked. We don't track it, but I would love to see the AR each month.
Well,
That would help me understand. And I've asked about this report for years.
well, it's good to know that this is a holdover from COVID that's going to change
Yes.
because we're going to re-implement like when I
Sure.
was at the telephone company, you got temporarily disconnected.
Right.
And you had to come in and make a deposit and blah, blah, blah.
Right,
And if you didn't pay, you got totally disconnected.
Yes.
You guys don't have a temporary disconnect process, right? It's you owe
off
it,
or
and if
not.
you don't pay, it's totally off.
We don't have a shut off for sewer, but I don't think our sewer is,
Health
is,
says that we don't shut off sewer.
But you can shut off water, huh?
we can shut off water.
Okay,
Yeah.
and can you do it remotely with the new system?
Yeah.
No?
Really?
Right.
That would have been at a higher cost.
Yeah.
Okay, we have another one. Come on up. Sorry.
Just out of curiosity, this Mike Castro, sorry, should have spoken my name. This current fee of $10, when was that implemented? Says in past years, it doesn't say it's a decade, 2 decades, 4 decades. When was the fee structure put in place?
I can tell you that it has not been reevaluated for many years.
You know what, though? I thought we recently did go through some of our fees, maybe 2 years ago.
Oh,
No,
right.
I
And you were talking about,
I
Yeah,
think
so-
fees were reevaluated when Rebecca Callan was here, but I don't know if it was all of the fees that were reevaluated.
We had some fees that we looked at and updated, but
But this is one of the fees that we need to take a look at reevaluating because the past due process is different now when you run it out of a new system. And then if we are sending this out through a third party mail house, which we have to do because the quantity of past due notices is too high for staff to handle in-house here. Once it goes down, we're absolutely looking at bringing that back in-house for cost savings, but it's too many right now.
Yeah.
But there's a cost to running it through a mail house. There's posted, I mean, even if we ran it in-house,
be
there would be
right, yeah.
postage, there would be staff time. So that's the second part to my report today for our delinquency process is that needs to be looked at and evaluated to make sure that we are recuperating the correct amount of money for facilitating and running the process.
Perhaps you can plan in the next couple months or whenever it fits your time frame, bring these fees to us and have us start reviewing those.
because,
All of the fees?
Well, whatever
county
fees that
fees?
you feel should come forward first.
So we're
Right.
having talks internally to do a fee study.
Mhm.
And that would be district wide. So it would be every fee that we
Perfect.
have here at the district.
Yeah.
But I
I have-
did,
excuse me, I had a question because you talked about Tyler having a template, but not quite the process that we needed. When they came through with the service, did they charge us for that?
no,
Oh, they did.
Didn't?
Okay, well, I'm
Thank
glad to
you.
hear that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
this
Yeah,
is
yeah.
the setup of the form itself and then training staff through the process was a leftover from the implementation.
Okay,
So because delinquencies were on hold under the governor's moratorium for
Right.
shutoffs during COVID, it sat and Tyler said, as soon as you guys are ready, just give us a call and we'll walk you through the whole process and make sure it's set up. So it was not at any additional cost.
oh,
But we will obviously need to move forward with, in my opinion, my recommendation in seeing how many past due accounts that we have at this point. And, just the cost of running the process and sending it out, we will need to re-implement the fee. And I know that we've discussed that both at the finance committee level and the board level as far as, what's appropriate. I know, we've had discussions about whether or not we even move forward with shutting off or disconnecting for non-payment. And there has been a lot of legislation that has made its way through the Senate, specifically stating that, water is a right and should not be used as a mechanism for delinquency, the shut off. So we're going to have to obviously evaluate that and take into account the impact.
The ones that you're talking about is just saying that they're late. It's part of the shut off shut off is a part of this process. First process is you're late and you're charged X%. Second time is you have 10 days or whatever before you shut off. Next time is 24 hours and then you're done. Kind of thing. Okay.
Right.
So
It's
it's one process, the late notice, and it ends up with the shut off.
right. And this is just the first part of the delinquency process.
Gotcha.
Is the past due notice and the fee associated with running the process.
And did you say already, and I missed it, when you think you will be able to start doing that? When it was.
So
public
we are on track to be able to issue past due notices to our cycle 2 customers next week. So we billed
Oh,
cycle
nice.
2 in February, and we will be issuing those past due notices next week for our cycle 2 customers. There was notification that went out on the past 2 billing statements stating that we were going to be moving forward with that. And if anybody had any questions, they could give us a call in customer service. But we will be running that next week on March 26th.
Okay, and cycle 2 is
Ebbets Pass.
Ebbets Pass, and who else?
Just Ebbets Pass.
We're big enough
Yeah.
until for a while because copper is coming on.
Right.
Yeah,
So I did.
It's almost we will end up with 3 years.
Right. So I did just want to provide an update to Finance Committee on where we were with the notices. I was ready to report on, additional trends that came out of issuing them in February for cycle 1, but we weren't able to meet that deadline. So I did put in here that I'd like to continue reporting on this over the next several months, especially so that I can bring back additional information, and hopefully that will help determine the best course of action for CCWD moving forward as far as the delinquency process in its entirety.
yeah,
Awesome.
because I think I would appreciate the stages and what you're,
Oh, sure.
yeah, what you're
Mhm.
charging, because that's where we got a
On the
little
late
bit.
notices or
involved.
the AR aging? It's kind of
Uh-huh.
like an AR aging.
So
for
I
late
can pull
notices.
that. I believe it was either the July or August Finance Committee meeting where I did have that diagram. So I can.
Yeah, bring that
Bring it
back and
back.
let's, we
Yeah.
could
Okay.
dial it in a little bit
Uh-huh.
if we want.
Okay.
At the next meeting, I'd really like to see an AR aging
Sure.
and have that as part of our
okay.
regular monthly reports would be nice.
I'm interested in numbers, and so I'd like to know how many customers at what level.
That's what the AR aging will show you, what they're past due.
Well,
The aging report will tell you how many customers in each cycle and whether they're 30 days, 60
oh,
days, 90
okay, I'm
days.
sorry, I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it'll have a dollar amount there.
Right.
It'll probably just be an account number or something. I mean, you don't want to have anything with their names on there for
Oh,
us
I'm-
to see.
It's just going to tell you for cycle 1, how much, I mean, we can tell you how many customers and what
I
the
want to
amount.
know how many
Yeah.
customers. I want to get some
I'll give you a
percentage of
number. I
customers.
don't think it's going to be helpful to have just a sheet of account numbers. I
No,
think
no,
if you
no,
know
no,
how
no,
many
numbers.
and
You
then.
just say we have,
Total number.
Right.
300
Total
people
numbers,
at
fine.
30 days
Yeah.
or less, or,
And that's what,
Yeah,
and
that-
that's what the
that's
aging
important.
report will give us.
Okay.
Not a
okay.
problem.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the aging.
I used it all the time.
Yeah, you know all about it.
Okay, great.
Yeah, that was
And
great, Kelly. Thank you. Is that it?
no problem. That's it. And if
Any
there are
other questions for
questions-
Kelly? Mike or Francisco?
That was-
That was on the the past due notice. But perfect. Do you want him to send you an email asking for it? Would that be a better reminder? Can you do that, Francisco? Thank you. And it looks like we don't have any online stuff happening, or we just can't see it. Or do you guys see it there and we don't see it here? Okay. Okay. Do we have any online public comment? All righty. Okay, so let's move on to your,
Okay, so wait a second. So Francisco, then you'll issue a request of.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, well,
He's requesting Article 3 rules and regulations from
Yeah.
our policy.
just let
Mhm.
Rebecca know what you're looking for, and between Kelly and Rebecca, they can figure out which policy it is. Okay, so that was
Great.
item 3B.
Yes.
So let's move on to 3C, and that would be you as well.
It is me
That
again.
is the Customer Assistance Program Enrollment and Policy.
Yes, so I frequently report on the customer assistance program at the External Relations Committee meetings, but I did want to bring this topic to Finance Committee today, specifically to speak on the program's enrollment and then possible revamp or amendment to the policy itself. And to give a little bit of background, obviously this program was established here at CCWD back in 2019, and it was providing an opportunity for low-income customers to apply for financial assistance directly through us here at the district. And it has been successful in redirecting a portion of our non-rate revenues towards customer accounts as long as the customer met the eligibility requirements. And this is a renewal process that you may be familiar with that we do annually. We're about to send out renewals again in April. Those will be due by May 1st for the upcoming fiscal year, and that's something that customer service helps facilitate for the program. So under the policy as it stands right now, credits for eligible customers are capped at $20 per bill per qualifying water customer, and then $30 per bill per qualifying wastewater customer. So if you have a water and wastewater account and you qualify, you're looking at as much as $50 per billing cycle as a credit on your account if you're in the program. I did provide a diagram there. I wanted to show what we have budgeted for the CAP program historically since its inception to current year to date. And the amount of money that we've actually spent in non-rate revenues and credits towards eligible customer accounts. So you will see that it ramped up there within the first couple of years, and then in the last couple of years, there's been a decline. And so specifically in fiscal year 22-23 and then 23-24, enrollment in the program itself has significantly decreased. And there's several factors that could come into play as to why. But one of the biggest reasons that admin services staff feels that enrollment has gone down is the way the policy is written. It states that you are not eligible for the program if your account is delinquent. Many of our customer accounts are delinquent. So I think a lot of people are interested in this program, but then they get the policy or they get the application and they go, oh, well, my account is delinquent, or they don't anticipate they're going to be able to keep their account current, so they just don't enroll in the program.
I argued that point
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
those are the people that need the help. And if they have to be
Right.
current to get on, it doesn't make sense. And
Right.
I have my notes. I would definitely like to revisit that
Right.
and change it.
And I think this coincides actually with what I just reported in item 3B, where we're talking about the delinquency
Right.
process itself. Because if we do make any changes to that process as well, it's going to necessitate policy amendment and change. So, it may be that we look at, changing and rewording, restructuring this, program and associated policy as well. But I did just want to comment and say that obviously internally we're having these conversations because particularly for me, being a newer employee here at the district, coming out of the rate study and hearing from the community and being a ratepayer myself, I think it's very important that CCWD have a viable program that helps as many
Exactly.
people as possible. And so we're having these communications internally. We're trying to figure out, well, you know, we've bolstered the outreach. We've, you know, looked at the program itself. We were trying to figure out ways that we might be able to, you know, garner additional funding to make the program bigger, or maybe generate a different type of assistance. So one of the things that we've talked about is, you know, coming up with options to encourage renewal and then engage customers to initially register for the program. And a couple of things that have come up, especially this fiscal year, because we are only at, I think, just under, at this point, just shy of $28,000 or $29,000 of the budgeted $60,000 this fiscal year for the program. So we haven't even reached half of the benefit.
Yeah, you know, Kelly, I would like us to be able to discuss right now some of the potential changes to the policy for eligibility if we can. If we can't, I'd like to bring it back to the next finance meeting.
Okay.
But something along the lines, and again, I brought this up when we first started doing this. And if somebody is behind, let's say they're 3 months behind, at this point, they haven't been shut off. So if we could put them on the program, beginning with the year, the cycle that they sign up, and like the only way they could get into the program is if they have a payment plan signed for the past due 3 months. Let's say they owe $900. So they're going to agree to pay an additional X $100 a month on top of their whatever their current bill is to get caught up. And something like that could ensure that they would be eligible for the lower rate. And I know when it was brought up, there was some issue. Well, I don't know how we could bill that. Well, I get like what I used to do when we did that. And mind you, we didn't have the amount of customers that you have. But what would be wrong with having a handwritten thing that says, here's account A, and they have to pay an additional 100. And it was said that if they didn't, then they get kicked off that program. And so we have to, and I know you guys are short-staffed and I hate
Yeah.
putting this on, but I would help in that if I had to,
Right.
you know, if you guys would allow me to, I would help you track. And then, you know, once a month or whatever, somebody's going to have to go and find, you know, how many customers would we have like that? 25? You know, I mean, just some kind of amount. I
Right.
think somebody could take a few minutes to see if they paid that extra $100 or whatever the amount is. But I want to make it something they can achieve and be successful at. Not, okay, you owe us 900, you have to pay us 3 payments. If they could done that already, they would have. So it's got to be something that they agree. So how much can you pay, Kelly, on this $900 a month? Let them be part of that solution. It's got to be something. But, you know, but as it is, we're not getting it now anyway. So if they say we can do $40 a month, take it. You know, because
Yeah.
again, that establishes great customer service. We want to help these folks. We don't want to keep them from not having water and stuff like that.
Well,
So-
and we're talking about sewer, and
Sewer and
we
water.
talked about, well, yeah, okay, but we talked about the education of
Mhm.
our customers, and that's the key, Cindy.
Yeah. Well, I think part of the
We-
key for
you
these
know-
people that are behind, they can't get ahead to get in a good spot. And with the rate increase, it's just harder. So I would like to see CCWD do better to help them. We have the money
Mhm.
and, you know, even your idea of, okay, if we haven't spent all the money, give them a little benefit. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I'd rather get more people on that can benefit from it, but I'm not inclined to say, no, I don't want to do it. I would
Right.
rather get more people on if possible, but if we can't, we can't,
Well,
you know.
and your feedback obviously is very valuable, and we do want to appeal to as many customers as possible. One of the things that we've been looking at, though, obviously, well, going back to your comment, Director Cicada about, facilitating, payment plans with customers. I mean, obviously that has not necessarily come into play over the last several years because normally payment plans are associated with avoiding water disconnection for non-payment. So, but we are working with Tyler to, leverage that technology. We should be leveraging the systems for what they're built for and moving away from manual processes and trying to utilize, I mean, we're paying for the technology. Let's build it and get it structured the way we need it to be in order to meet,
And if they can do that to where, okay, this one's on a payment plan, so the water shut off is unchecked. You know what I mean? I
right.
mean, there should be a
Well-
way to do it.
Well, and there's, and, payment plans incorporated into, the CAP program. We would have to restructure policy. We'd have to figure out, obviously how that would work. Not saying that it's not impossible. I feel like
Yeah.
we have a lot of possibilities here. But one of the things that has not necessarily been reevaluated or proposed since the program started was taking a look at the actual credit amount that's being provided to customers. It has stayed the same since 2019, but our rates have increased. So I don't know necessarily if customers, I mean, I'm sure they're very appreciative, a water customer gets
$20.
$20 off
yeah.
their
But
bill.
they're saying
But-
$50, what's that?
Right. And so one of the other options that was discussed was taking a look at the amount of the credit.
Right.
And seeing, if we can up that credit amount so that there's more benefit.
And we
And
can,
these
and we
just-
can justify
what-
that because of the rate increase. That's,
I
that's-
agree with all that, but I don't want to keep robbing from Peter to pay Paul kind of a thing. So what bucket of funds would you take from?
It wouldn't
To
be.
increase that, because we have the 60,000 already.
So it
and we
wouldn't
want to
be
increase that.
It wouldn't be increasing
So, but you're,
because the enrollment numbers have gone down.
right,
okay,
Cindy.
okay, but hang on. And
Mhm.
I saw that, but I was saying I'd rather reach out to more people and they're not getting on that. So if you have extra funds after we have all the people on,
Mhm.
anybody who's in arrears over, 60 days should be on this program unless they no longer live there. And that's not even possible because the property you would lien. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
First, get the people on the program. And if we have leftover without increasing it, I'm all for that.
But they do have to qualify for the program now.
Right. But
And
I
so.
want to change that to where because right now, if you're in arrears, you're SOL.
No, that's not, so that's not the only thing. They have to be enrolled in the CARE program or they have to be
With PG.
Okay.
with
And that's,
PG&E.
yeah.
So there's several factors that come into play here for them to be able to
Yeah.
be in the program,
And-
the way it's written right now.
Yeah. Well, let's
Um,
review that next meeting, bring it, if you can, bring it to us and let's edit it the way we feel it should be and bring it back to the board with that in mind about being able to increase the credit amount if it's available. But I think first should be get as many people on it as you can. And if they're on the CARE program, that's good. But PG&E, they put you on that program whether you're behind or not. So, and I think that's our biggest wall, from people being able to get on ours. That's what I'm thinking anyway. Because if you have children, you can usually be on, unless you make so much money. If you make so much money, then you would assume that they wouldn't need the credit, but do you want to do that, Bertha? Bring that
Mhm.
back next meeting and let's, the group of us decide how we would like it. Taking
Yeah,
everything you've suggested into
Right.
account. Let's,
And we have
No,
a question from Michael Inkler.
oh no. Michael, I thought we were gonna have this without you. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Michael. I can't see you.
I'm actually really reluctant to speak up because I'm just going to dumb it down. Kelly's doing such a phenomenal job.
Yes, she is.
But I did want to just point out, and I'm sorry that I'm late. We're on our way back to the office right now. Our last meeting went long, but the last meeting we were at was the Calaveras County Association of Realtors, and one of them pointed out, because we discussed this issue there, we were encouraging them to spread the word that there's still space in the customer assistance program. And one of the realtors pointed out that it may be that PG&E has changed its criteria and actually made it harder for people to qualify. And that might be another reason why we're seeing reduced
Can we check
enrollment.
into that?
Yeah, so I just wanted to throw that out there as another potential factor. I think Kelly's right on that it's probably has more to do with our policy. And we absolutely, that's why we wanted to have this discussion item, is to talk about possible solutions, and then staff can go back and write something up to bring back.
Yeah,
But I think there's policy changes we can make, but it'd also just be good for us to be aware of if there are external issues that are, exacerbating that problem. Maybe something ACCA might be aware of that we can get some
Right.
information from them on. So
yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Michael.
Yep.
Yeah, and so that you will bring it back next meeting, and Michael, you'll be here to participate. You folks might be here too. I think that'll be a great policy to review and bring forward to the board.
Okay. Do you have, I know you haven't done cycle 2 yet. You won't do it for a couple of weeks. Do you have anything from prior on the number of accounts?
Oh, for the CAP program? So CAP program is district-wide for both cycles, but so all customers. And actually, as of today, I knew you were going to ask me about numbers.
So you're
ready. I'm ready. So we actually have, as of today, 203 active water cap customers out of a total of 237. So we're able to accommodate 237 water customers. So we have 203. And for wastewater, out of the 175 that we're able to admit into the program, we have 112.
Yeah, we've got a lot of openings.
So we do have quite a few
Yes,
openings
let's
still.
Figure out a way to let these people get to this
Uh-huh.
money,
So we staff feels that this is a great time to be having this conversation because, like I said, we are getting ready to ramp up with renewals again in April for the upcoming fiscal year. And what a great way to, evaluate the program, make sure it's reaching as many people as possible, and get, quite a few customers started off on the right foot heading into the next fiscal year.
On the customers that are on arrears that we're kind of talking about, have we been charging late fees?
No, we have not
No
been
late fees, so
administering
it's
late
just
fees.
strictly for water or sewer. Okay, good to know.
And that's
No, because,
Okay.
you
all I
know,
have today.
Well, I know
We would
why we
mandate
haven't
it.
been able to,
We
and I
would-
get that. I just wasn't sure if it was put back on yet.
No,
What
we,
is the-
we,
if we
we are
did-
proposing reinstating past due
And
fees.
what is that $10 a month?
She's gonna bring that as part of the,
So I think, so okay, so reporting on customer assistance, obviously, this is completely
Different.
standalone from the past dues.
So my question though, currently, well, the reason why I was saying that, I don't need to say why, but it answered my question.
Mhm.
What is our current policy, even though we're not working it? Is it just $10 per cycle?
It's $10 per cycle,
Okay.
yes. Just a
It's
flat
not
$10,
Flat rate of $10 per cycle for a late fee.
correct. And it's just the cost for,
Yeah.
it would just be the cost for
Okay.
running that process.
And that's what we're talking about, that you're going to bring back again. Also, staff has already been talking about it. They're going
Right.
to bring back an updated fee schedule.
Right,
for
we're
us to
looking at evaluating that fee and making sure that it's commensurate with obviously the
Gotcha.
process that we're running.
Okay, so is there any more on this? Michael's here. You were out in the parking lot the whole
Oh.
time. And I haven't met this gentleman, but he's Water Resources. Is that right? Hi.
No, that's okay.
And what's your name? Oh, that's it. Nice to meet you. Welcome. Okay, so I think we just finished that, but
That
we
is-
do have public comment.
That's the
And-
end of my report, so I'm open,
Thank you,
open
Kelly.
for questions.
All right, come on up, Francisco. Okay.
Read an article that one of our state senators at the federal level is concerned about the affordability of utilities, specifically water, electricity, et cetera. And he was making noises, and I'm paraphrasing, about reaching out and doing something to help that situation. And I'm not sure if our lobbyist is already on it and all over it, et cetera, but I thought I'd mention it, that I'd read an article in the last week or so that he was concerned. So
Senator
Been
Padilla-
around for a
Senator
while
Padilla's office
lately.
actually reached out to us to offer so that we could offer some support for that bill. So that is and we sent a letter of support. We sent a letter of support with suggestions, friendly suggestions, so still supportive, but we think there's better ways to do it than because basically what he's proposing is an extension or an additional funding for the LIWAP
yeah,
program.
that's what I read.
And that is great. And, if it's available, fantastic, but I think there's more effective ways to address low income ratepayer assistance. And so we offered support and suggestions and along with it.
Long story short, you're all over it.
There you go. Thank you,
Did we get
Francisco.
a copy of that letter, Michael?
Absolutely. Yeah. We'll make sure you get a copy of that.
Next,
Yeah.
I just wanted to thank you for bringing up exactly what was on my mind, that it needs to be reviewed as the current rates to help the people out, and that you will look into them. So I'm happy with that.
the next meeting, so
I know that, I remember my mom talking about CARE, where she had been on the CARE program for several years, and PG&E changed something in it where now they require the income of all persons that live within your residence.
Yeah.
And so that's what's cutting some of the people off. If you have adult children or that are living in your residence and they have income, you
That's
don't see any of it anyway, but now
Right.
you're being cut out of a program because of that additional income in your household.
That's exactly I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's exactly the story we just heard was one of the realtors has a 93-year-old mother with a $1,200 a month fixed income, but has a caregiver, like I think the daughter living with her that also has a low income, but the combination of their income is just enough
Right.
right,
to
to where they
exceed the
don't.
threshold for the PG&E program, and now they're off.
Yeah, I have an 88-year-old mother. Her retirement income, especially since my father's passing 20 years ago, is just like there. She's financially okay, but the income, she can't afford the things. My 70-year-old brother, who is a quadriplegic, has moved into her home a few years ago, and he has his disability income, and now it's kicking her out of these care programs. So
That's
there's
easy.
got to be some way to overlook that. And that's why I said, if the criteria for CCWD is that they've got to be on the care program, you're probably going to continue to kick people out, and
Well, I
maybe
think-
that should not be the criteria.
Right, Kelly, I think is gonna bring back some other
That's a
options, and we can
real-
always say.
That's a real challenge for us, though, because one of the reason why we use that as our eligibility criteria is because we do not want to be in the business
Right.
of income verification. That is a huge
But
additional. administrative
might be able to do something along.
Well,
those
Resource
lines.
Connection also provides
Oh, yeah,
that
Resource
as a, I don't say service, but it's something that they would be able to, information they would be able to provide. But I can tell you that usually agencies look and refer to other agencies
Right.
and use benchmarks as for establishing customer assistance programs. And so this is something that's very widely utilized as a requirement for a lot of programs.
You know,
Yeah.
please bring that back to the next meeting then.
That's. I
It
think
sounds
that's
like we might go that
could-
route.
I think we could look into it, though, both, Resource Connection, ACCA, but we can also reach out to some of our, our partner agencies, obviously Mountain Counties and.
Yeah.
See if
Because
this is an issue that other agencies are facing, and if they have found a workaround,
right,
if there's a way to make those people eligible again.
And there's normally, I need to look and see if they've produced it. I know back in 2016 or 2018, I don't know if it's the Association of California Water Agencies, will normally solicit for customer assistance program information from various agencies up and down the state. And they'll actually put a resource together so you can use that as a mechanism to either build or change your existing program. So I'll see if they've put out anything
that would be.
I
new.
think that might have been a one-off. when
Was it?
The state was proposing the water tax. I think
Back
that
in
was something-
2016, was
Yeah,
it? Something
yeah.
like that? Okay.
It would have been later than that.
Okay.
But, But it's, I think to your point, the state was really focused on low income ratepayer assistance for several years, probably, going back to 2016.
Right.
Up until I think it was 2021, when the water tax was proposed and Aqua fought hard against it and it failed, not because we're opposed to low income ratepayer assistance, but because that was the wrong way to do it.
Right.
The problem is, and we've brought this up with the water board, is that shouldn't have been the end of the discussion.
Right.
There are right ways to do it, and it's what we were trying to raise for Senator Padilla as well. And Aqua had offered that. They're usually very good about not just opposing legislation, but saying no, and here's why, and here's what we think you should do instead. And they had developed through polling all of the agencies, the member agencies, to see what tools are available, a resource for that. So I think it's worth reaching out to them again. I've pushed Aqua legislative staff on this over the last couple of years, and unfortunately, I think it's not they're fantastic at what they do. It's not a knock on them. It's just not their highest priority right now, because there's no pending legislation, and that's probably maybe what needs to change at some point.
Okay, so I'm gonna move this along because Bertha has to leave at like 2:35.
You guys were doing so great
Okay.
before I got
Okay.
there.
Yeah.
I just
Oh.
want to make one comment, and that's the fact that, all that we're talking about, the different policies and the different organizations, we really haven't had a concerted effort to look at it until now that we're talking about
Well,
revision.
you have
of-
staff too coming on board. That's helpful.
Right.
Yeah, but this is, I think, to Kelly's earlier point, I think this is good timing for us to revisit this, because, hearing budget development before the end of this fiscal year to see if we want to make any
Right.
changes for current participants in the program, but also as we prepare for next fiscal
Okay.
year and
Yeah,
revisit.
next meeting.
Can I throw out one more agency? Can I throw out CSDA?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, they're not.
I can't think of the gentleman's name, the representative for this area, and he loves to, who?
Dane Wadley.
Dane Wadley, yeah.
Dane
If
Wadley.
you ask
Uh-huh,
Dane to
uh-huh.
come up with
I
something
didn't-
for us, he would love to do
I
that.
didn't
Great.
see his
CSDA.
picture in their latest pic.
Aqua in Mountain Counties or Aqua especially tends to focus more on rate issues, because not all special districts are funded by water and sewer
Yeah.
rates. And so.
Okay, so-
CSDA is they represent all special
Right,
districts.
right.
Aqua would be probably CSDA would be supportive of it too, I think, but Aqua would probably be the.
Okay,
lead on
so
it.
we are going to thank you, Kelly. Wonderful.
Thank you.
I'm cutting everybody off because
And
the
I'll
reports,
stay
and we have new
longer
people.
at when
and
you're
Bertha's
making
gonna
your
leave.
presentation.
So I want to make sure we can go through the reports, and since we have two folks that are new, I want to start with the budget performance, just the operating budget performance. Would it be better, Michael, if like Bertha, do you have questions on that particular report, and we go through it that way and see if they can answer them?
So,
or-
Are you talking about the financial statement?
Yes,
Oh,
we're moving. Oh, yeah, sorry, we're moving on to three
Gotcha,
A.
gotcha. I assumed that was at the beginning of the meeting, so.
No,
John-
we
Oh,
John
moved
and I-
it.
no.
John and I logged in about 20 minutes ago, and I said, wow, they're done with the financial.
No,
stuff."
we moved it. So, and I want to make sure we have some time. I want
I would-
these two to
I
get a
would-
little bit
Yeah.
used
my
to what we're
sugge-
going to ask.
My suggestion would be to fire away at me and.
Oh,
and then
come on.
They can probably already answer some questions, but if.
Well,
anything
let's
we
just,
can't
let's
answer-
do this. We'll look at them, and if they say pass, then we'll go to you.
Anything we can't answer, we'll get back to you.
Yeah. And feel no pressure. I mean, you guys have only been here a couple weeks, so please feel free to say, Michael, or something. So
Mhm.
Bertha, you want to go through your items, or you want me
Oh,
to start?
I have several questions. First of all, I
And
was-
refer to what page you're on and whatnot.
well, where do I have?
We're gonna start with the budget performance, which would be pages 1 through, looks like, 12.
Well, no, I'm already on page 4.
Okay, so let's move to page 4.
No. The only thing that my question was, for salaries and wages, we had 59%, and my question is, we have new employees, lots of new employees. Are we going to be all right?
Oh, we're gonna be well under on salaries and benefits.
We have no problem.
no, the problem is we haven't been able to spend it. But we finally are staffing up, although we're also still experiencing turnover. So that we still have, and we still have vacancies that we have not been able to fill yet. So I expect us, especially in engineering, also admin services and water resources, and probably operations also, I think will be low on salaries and benefits. And even though we have redirected some of that funding towards additional outside services that we've needed, that I think will still be far short on salaries and benefits, but we are really working hard to get those positions filled.
Cool.
You know what happened? I got my notes mixed up because I was doing my ethics training and I have questions about ethics, but anyway, third-party payment processing, 466.
Can I jump in? Because that was one of my things.
Yeah.
On the third. So first of all, I want to say the reports, sometimes I'll ask for changes. I think I said that to you. And one of the changes we did a while ago was there's the narrative of
Right.
certain line items. I want to say that's wonderful because that saves us from asking the questions. So, however, in regards to the miscellaneous operating revenue, that's the third party payments. We have revenue we collect and then it offsets in the expense. On page 2, where under your footnote, it says, the credit card and Tyler fees collected offset by the expense. And then it says you refer to the expense line item. And one of my complaints is I always have to do this. Okay, now I'm going to go back over here a couple of pages and find that line item. And if you could, in the footnotes, say what the year-to-date revenues collected in the year-to-date expenses. I did it myself, but I think if we could have it in your footnote, you're just going to go ahead and pull over to page 2 under the revenue. The year-to-date expense for item 61485 is $156,868. And that way I can see, and I could compare that to the current expense or the current revenue of 147. So I can get an idea of, you know what I'm saying? Because the back and forth of trying to find things has always been a frustration for me in our reports. So if you can kind of keep that in mind as you guys are training and familiarizing yourself with stuff. But if we could do that, anything that it's an offset, it used to also, like, for instance, this is sort of not on topic, but sort of. But when we withdraw money for the 401s, the 457 plan from payroll, and then we write a check for what we collect. And in the check register, it used to have an asterisk, anything with an asterisk, that it was just a pass-through kind of a thing. So that's kind of what this is, with the exception of this one. I think we are budgeting a certain expense amount, and I'd like to know what that is at some point. So that was my comment on that. On page 2, there's what it is. And there's a footnote that it says why it's so 400 and some odd percent, because the income's high, and that's nice to have 400% in income, but you got to go back to the expense and deduct that and then see where you're at. And I don't have to do the math. Okay, you want to keep going, Bertha?
Do you
And again,
Does it
if I have
seem
to,
like
ask
something
her-
that you could easily do? I don't.
Sure. Yes. I
thank
believe
you.
we
That's a
can.
great answer. And if we don't see it right away, like I said, you guys have been here 2 weeks. I get it. And if I say it again, I'm okay. It's after about, a year, I might get disappointed.
We're working on it, Cindy. They'll tell you, we're
No,
working on
but,
it.
but you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just like, there, sometimes reports are a little bit fluid and we adjust here and there, and I can make a comment of calling instead of where it says current budget. I'd like to say year to date. And because anyhow, that's for another day. Go ahead, Bertha. Keep
Well,
going.
to be
Were we done?
perfectly honest, that was it.
All right, then we'll come back to
Yeah.
me. So now I'm going to go on page 4. And now it's broken down by department. The first couple of pages is a summary, which I really
Right.
like that. But on page 4, we have the telephone and there's a footnote on the telephone for utility. It says it is over budget, will take into consideration, but I didn't see where because that's for utility. Wouldn't there be telephone for admin or something like that somewhere in these reports, Michael, or is that our telephone for everything?
Now you said page 4?
I think we put a lot of it in the one, I don't know that we break it out separately for every
Yeah.
department. But that is an item that I think we need to make sure we
Right.
get it right this.
Because remember, the
Yeah,
last
that's the
time we
first time.
caught it, there was like one number missing and that one number was a couple $100,000 or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah.
It was a data
It
entry.
was that big.
I know, but it was a big, oh, no.
Yep. I
And
did
we
that.
might be
So
there now.
We're gonna get it. We're gonna make sure we have discussed that one already.
Yeah.
And we've flagged it
Yeah.
and we're gonna make sure we.
And I think ultimately, we talk about, even though the line items are off, but ultimately if for that section or that department, we're under budget, we're okay. And yes, but if we're really trying to get accurate budgets, it's better to have those line items line up, So what else? And there's that third party processing one, the telephone. Okay, so I'm on page 9 and when I look at the reports, I glance through all the line items and Rebecca, going forward, if I could, do you mail a finance packet to Bertha? Oh, okay. Would
And
you-
Bertha
I
didn't
say-
get it.
Okay, well, that's okay. I mean, it happens. I usually say I don't want one mailed, but I don't have a color printer at home. So when sometimes, in the reports, it highlights red, green, that kind of thing, and I kind of miss that. So I think maybe I would like a finance report printed and mailed, or tell me it's ready and I'd be glad to come pick it
Yeah.
up. Okay, so
Yeah, excuse me. One of the things that I did mention, the fact that, having the meeting on Tuesday, would be great if you could get it out, mailed out Thursday instead of Friday.
We'll work on that.
Yeah.
That is certainly
We'll work
not their
oh,
fault.
what kind of a
Okay.
request was that?
That one,
One that I can ask.
Okay,
No,
yeah,
because,
Michael will work
you
on
know,
that.
please-
That's a
please-
Michael question.
yeah.
the
that is
mail,
Often
They've
it's,
been here 2 weeks.
it's often the other departments or myself that are still working on items. And so if we're late in getting agenda packet items all completed, that's usually what the cause of the delay. It's not the finance department usually. But yes, we will endeavor to get that out.
Well, you know-
because, with Wednesday for the regular board meeting, if it doesn't come until Monday, we still have a couple of days, but
Well,
What-
you have a laptop.
oh yeah,
that
I
the
have a
CCA gave
laptop.
you,
and I
so
could
use
do
it and
that,
look
but,
at it. Anyhow, I
Did you just ask for a printed copy?
did on the reports, but I also said that I would be glad to come pick it up. Because like when I'm looking at it online or in my laptop or whatever, it's all in color. And then I go, oh, I'm going to print this and start making my notes. And I'm like, doggone it, because it's jaded, but
Okay.
okay. Anyhow, so now I'm on page 9. I'm looking at, the outside services for the drug and alcohol testing. And it says the annual consortium membership fee. So it looks like our budget is $4,000. So do we pay that every year and then they deduct however many tests that we do? Or, do you pay per test? And if it's $4,000 a year, whether we use it or lose it? the-
No, I think that is probably just due to the amount of recruiting,
Hmm.
although.
Well, not recruiting. This is for drug and
No, but
alcohol.
those things, it's actually. I
It's
don't know if
separate.
That's,
Well,
Okay, so
doesn't-
I'll read it.
part
to
of the
you
doesn't
here.
recruiting
everybody have
process,
to do
or what it, the other thing is, and this is, and I might not, I'm not 100% sure of the mechanics of that specifically.
Well, and you
But
guys can bring it
in
back.
general, what I can tell you is the cost of, because I don't know if this is tied to our Class A drivers or not. I think it is. So. the
Oh,
class-
so a DMV pool and
the
whatnot
class
then.
of-
Okay.
Cost of Class A drivers, regulatory requirements and certifications.
You have to have a
is
DMV
going
and-
up significantly. The requirements
Yeah.
have changed. Next year, you'll see it reflected in our budget. The cost of training and maintaining those certifications is going up significantly.
Well, when you, don't they also with a Class A driver, they get pulled to get random testing?
they
And
do.
so that's in there.
That's right.
So that's something to maybe put in next time. I just learned that. You guys probably just learned that too.
Yeah.
So that's why we
What-
asked some of
yeah.
these questions.
And we've talked about this before as far as the increase in our requirements.
Yeah, so we
That,
just had
and that really should be emphasized because we're looking at state and now we're looking at DMV and
Mhm.
whoever else we have
That
to
is-
satisfy. And where does that money come from? It comes from our customer.
It's almost like you were listening into our management team meeting yesterday.
Oh,
Because that is something that the board has raised many times.
Right,
We were
right.
having a discussion about yesterday, making sure that, especially since we're going, as we go into budget development, it's a good opportunity for us to start to do a better job of tracking where it's easy if it's a new regulatory program,
Right.
right? You just flag the whole program. That's another, regulatory compliance cost. Where it gets harder is almost everything we do is in some way related to regulatory compliance. And it just, it's kind of death by a thousand cuts and it increases incrementally in different areas every year. But where we see things like that, and we just had this conversation in management team yesterday, like that's a good example. Flag it and make sure that we're tracking that so that we
absolutely.
can demonstrate how much of our cost increases are associated with regulatory compliance, which we have no control over. We work really hard to control our costs over the things that we can control. And then there's this huge portion of our budget that we have no control over.
Yeah.
And that continues to grow.
And we do make statements in many of our presentations
Yeah.
about the increase in.
We do.
Regulation
And
fees
I'll be the
and
first to
whatever.
admit, we need
But
to do a
we've gotta
better job
keep
of
that-
tracking that.
Keep that message going.
Okay, I'm trying to keep the meeting here for you.
Oh, you want me to?
Can we
keep quiet?
move on? Any other comments on that particular line item? Just moving right along. Well, I want to get through. We still have the CIP and all that stuff. So I'm on page 10 and I want to talk about the payout, salary, wages, benefits, payouts. We year-to-date 13,604. We have a budget of 8,200, so we're over budget. So explain what the payout estimates are and how did we not get a better estimate for that? What's happened? Is it?
So
Can you
I think
explain
the
it?
payouts are a combination, if I'm not mistaken, of the PTO buy downs that we do because of the reduced caps that we adopted. And then when employees leave as well. And so I think it's a combination of probably more the latter being higher than we had anticipated. But I think that's something we're going to have to look at year over year
Yeah.
and see in the upcoming fiscal year where the right number is.
Does anybody know what our liability for PTO is?
It is, yes, it
Right
should,
now?
it's in, I don't know if.
I mean, we can't budget
It's-
for all that. I
it's
get
in the
it.
audit report and we do, yes, so we.
Do you know what that is,
I don't,
offhand?
off the top of my head, I do
Yeah.
not know.
So anyhow, I would
It is,
look
I know
at,
that it's less than it used to be because that's part
Yeah.
of why we adopted those lower caps is to buy down.
yeah. So, we might want to look at that one and just do a little bit closer if possible.
Yep.
And I would rather be one that over budgets and that we don't spend much. However, if somebody's in the mindset, well, we have to spend it or lose it, then I don't want to be in that position.
No, yeah, we're careful about that, but it is one we're gonna have to look at more closely going into next year, because that's still, we have a couple of years of experience with that now, but that was a relatively new change. But we should now be able to dial it in, I think.
Okay, so thank you. And then the next one, outside services, I was wondering if we could make a request for the engineering committee, the computer licenses. And so it says the number of Cs for the AutoCAD license increased. And I get that. But you know, when they're $2,500, $2,600 a year, is there any way that, I mean, is there somebody, is every person in engineering that has a license sitting at the computer all day long on AutoCAD? My guess would be no, but I could be wrong. So could engineering look at that? And let's say that we have, how many people do we have in engineering?
Uh,
6?
Yeah, off the top of my head, 3 engineers, coordinator,
And the boss? 3, 4, 5. So,
budgeted for 6, we have 5.
okay, but we're over budget, you know, by having this AutoCAD. So does every person need one? And I know $2,600 may not be a big deal to you, but it is to me. And, you know, if you save 2,500 there and 3,000 over here, I mean, it adds up.
Yeah, no.
So if you could just have them look at,
Anything that we don't
Yeah,
have to, so. we can
exactly.
Check with them.
So have them look at that and see if people can share. I mean, if people live on AutoCAD like you do on your email Outlook or whatever it is, then I get it. We need it, right? But if somebody only needs it, you know, a couple times a week, then I think we could share and save some money. And okay, that was it for mine on that particular report. Do you guys have any questions for me? And okay.
Not
Yeah,
for me.
okay, Francisco, public comment, come on down. Tell us what page you're on.
On page 5, Y07, office expenses shows 2024, 149,000, and we're over by 149,000, but the percentage is 0. So I think either it wasn't budgeted or the math is off, or I don't know what that means. Because there's no entry for office expenses for Y07.
Looks like they're missing the actual budget, right?
Well, you spent more than you have, so that's why it's an overage. But it calculates a 0%. It should, and it does that because it's got a dash there. So I don't know what that's really saying, but it's $150,000.
Well, to me, I looked like they just forgot to put, so did we not, did they not roll up the full budget that was approved in that box
I don't know.
on Y7 going across?
I'll get back to you on that.
Okay.
I don't know. Next, page 6. It shows director costs, you know, it goes across, but I don't understand how the 6,000 account for salaries and wages gets to be $7.6 million.
I'm sorry, what are you looking at?
I'm on page 6 under Y15, director cost, account 6,000 or 60,000, salaries and wages. The budget is 7.6 million.
Is that supposed to be a decimal instead of?
I don't know.
Maybe?
I don't know what the number should be. But the calculation makes it
Yeah.
0.29%. So something
Yeah.
doesn't feel right there. And
Do you folks see that? Meaning, oh, Kylie and Michael, I'm sorry, I couldn't remember.
Yes.
So we have 2 more Michaels. So you see what we're talking about there, and things like this happen. There's probably a data,
yeah,
you know,
So-
it could be a comma instead of a decimal.
could be a gremlin. So
A gremlin, yeah,
Just
that's
as-
what they call those?
that's
Okay.
what I used to call them, and then they stopped me. 'Cause,
Well, you know, I looked right over it because I looked at it as more in the thousands,
yeah,
the
it
millions,
just
but
didn't make sense to
Yeah.
have that going on. And then on the next page 7, we have a number of these, but this is an account Y13 miscellaneous operating expense. We overspent 34K. And
I'm sorry, what page were you at? I'm still.
Page
back.
seven.
Y13, page 7.
page 7, Y13, we overspent by 34K.
So the note
Isn't-
below that indicates that's partly due to, is that the insurance? Yeah, so insurance payments come due early in the fiscal year and then tend to balance out over the course of the fiscal year.
But isn't that also part of the third-party processing thing? No.
That's
The
a separate,
mislighting operating expense?
that's a separate line item.
Okay.
Y13 miscellaneous
non-operating.
operating expense with a budget of 281,000. We've spent 315.
Yeah, so we're over even the current budget amount.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we go back to
is-
If you
here.
look at Y13 on the next page, 8.
Well, I mean, I know some of our, if that's insurance, if that's insurance, I know some of those costs went up as well. So
Well,
in addition to timing.
So on the next few pages, there should be some notes broken down by that department, right?
there's nothing under Y13.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay, so on the next page 8, the same sort of deal. Miscellaneous operating expense, we overspent by 27K. And then the next page, page 9, same thing, miscellaneous operating expense, we've overspent by 13K. So by the time you add all those up there, that's a lot of Ks.
Yes.
So if I'll have to come back and report back to you on that one, but I think for utilities, that might be the increased pump repair cost that we addressed in mid-year budget.
You know-
No, I found some of those pump explanations in other places, Michael. That's what I'm asking.
Oh, state water and sewer fees? For under utilities? Okay, so that's permit fees that have increased.
So, but the
But
other
that's
thing,
another example of, we need to flag that and show that
So-
those are costs that we don't control.
but part of it, I'm looking on page 6 for Y13 misleading operating expense, and that third payment processing is in there. And perhaps that shouldn't be in there. Should be a standalone, or you see that? And that's got to be throwing everything else off across the board on that one that you were talking about, Francisco.
Well, there's just a variety of entries on miscellaneous operating.
Yes.
And I always chase down miscellaneous because they usually have a family
Well,
and a lot of illegitimate children, and then you have to do all kinds
Yeah.
of things
and
to explain how the family got so large.
there shouldn't be any miscellaneous at
Well,
all.
There's gonna be
No
some,
line item,
but
but
the
not
amount seemed a
really.
little bit out of the ordinary.
Well, I was gonna look at Michael and say,
Go ahead, please.
I don't think we should have any miscellaneous if we can get it. So that third
Well, we
payment
do have
processing.
detail behind that. It's.
I know, but that's
Yeah.
one of my complaints is it's like,
Go.
you have to keep doing this and going back and forth. And like what Francisco said is chasing it down. So, these are just one of those comments that if we could improve this situation better. And so looking at the miscellaneous expense, we've got rate assistance program, unemployment claims, insurance, state water sewer fees, federal dam, blah, 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 mandated plans. All those should have some kind of a family to go to, I would assume. And that's under Y13. So is this my summary one? Yeah, this is. Anyhow, do you see what we're saying?
I do. I think we should be cautious about reorganizing the GL. but,
I'm not suggesting that. I don't
I
know
am.
I don't know how you decide what to include in miscellaneous and what you insist on saying, no, I
Yeah.
want it down to the gnat's eyeball.
I think we
So-
should make sure that we have documentation of what's behind that, but I think we should also be cautious about reorganizing the
Yeah.
GL.
I'm not suggesting the
But
reorganization.
reorganizing the GL, you guys are building that now. So now you do it beforehand, wouldn't you? You guys do this?
We'll certainly look into it. Yep, absolutely.
And then the overtime under general management, it's not very helpful in terms of explanatory notes to say something that's obvious from just reading the
Right,
numbers. Like
watch it.
benefits are reporting a little over budget. We can tell that from the numbers not being, in line. And being monitored by all departments, is there a target that we're shooting for overtime? Or is whatever we need to spend with regardless? Because
No, the target is the budgeted amount. That's my fault for not being more clear there, but we had some, we have exempt employees in the general management budget that we, we needed a lot of overtime for certain parts of
So-
certain activities this fiscal
But the
year.
other thing, I think we talked about this at the last meeting, and there was comment that we were just coming out of the winter weather. That tends to have a little bit more overtime as well.
This is a great study.
Okay,
General management tends to not have increase in overtime for weather. 'Cause
Okay.
the only employees in general management that are affected by that are non-exempt
They're not-
or exempt employees, right? But we have non-exempt employees that were, that put in more overtime than
Yeah.
normal associated with the rate study.
So on that note, I mean, sometimes we're at these meetings and there's a plethora of staff and sometimes there's not. And I assume that when they're here, they're probably gonna have little overtime. So, no?
No,
Is there any, I mean, is there a consideration to let them contribute, if they have to by remote versus
Yeah,
they
having
do.
them sit here the whole time?
They do participate remotely. They're online right now.
Yeah, it just seems like if we're short-staffed,
Why is
unless they're
everybody-
specifically needed, it's like,
That's why they would be here in person is sometimes I will ask
I
certain
understand that.
individuals to be here in person if we're covering an item that it impacts their department or if we need, and especially the last few months when we don't have a director of admin services, we've needed the department heads to be here more frequently than normal because most time finance committee meetings are me, the finance director, an accountant, and usually that's about it. Maybe there's and then sometimes there are other people depending on what's on the agenda. But if there are more people here lately, that's partly because we're all trying to cover for the lack of that department head and also just depending on what the agenda items are, they're here to discuss, share their expertise on that item.
I understand, Michael. I'm just commenting on that. I've been in a lot of meetings where I feel bad for them just sitting there and they didn't get used or they didn't participate and they were very patient, very understanding, et cetera. And I just felt bad that that's a lot of time that they probably could have appreciated being out doing stuff that, you know what I mean? Move the ball forward. That's.
Just real quick, in response to some of those items that Francisco's mentioning in regards to the miscellaneous operating expenses, I just want to, for the record, to say that a lot of those are those items that Michael was referring to earlier, the state fees, the federal fees, the county fees, insurance, things that we're going to be tracking and reporting on a lot more as we move forward because they are largely out of our control. So
Okay,
just
thank
wanted
you.
to mention that.
we're moving because you're leaving in a few minutes. Are we done with that report? Okay, so let's move on. The fund balance report is all well and fine, and we'll come back to that if we can get through the capital improvement program. In fact, Francisco or Mike, do either of you have any comments on the fund balance report? Yeah, I don't either. Did you have any? Okay. So moving on to the capital improvement program expenditure report. I have asked for this a couple of times too, and I'm not complaining. I'm just going to keep asking for it until
Can I
we see
can I
it.
preempt you?
Okay, did you?
Because I
fix
know
it
where you're
already?
going and we could save time.
Okay, go for it.
We already have a reorganized version of this table that
Okay.
we're using to build the CIP for next fiscal year. We didn't have time with the new accountants to do it in this version yet, but we already are reorganizing by service area, and it's going to be much easier to understand where the projects.
Okay, so I'm going to jump in and make sure. I want to see, we have the total estimated cost. I want to make sure every project has an estimated cost, even if you're like, for instance, let's look at the district courtyard. There's no total estimated cost. And that kind of chaps my hide a little
Well,
bit
that's because the
because,
project's done. We know the exact cost.
okay, so we're just keep spending money or we're done?
No, we're done. I mean, we still have some cleanup.
Okay,
items
so we're not
there,
done.
but we are done.
So-
Project is closed out. This
So going forward, like when we approved that I first came on board and I had said no for it, it would have been nice to have well, what is your total cost for all this? And I think we were just talking about the land. I think some number like 300,000 came out and we're at $5 million or something. Anyhow, I think we need to have an estimated cost, even if you're saying, well, this project is only going to be 1 year long and we're scheduling money for that. And I get that. But if you're scheduling that money and spending that money, you should have an idea of what it's going to cost. So I'd like to see those costs in there, no matter what it is. I also want to see the percent. So the total project, I'm going to go the first one, the Jenny Lind Tank AV, estimated cost 13.5. And the total project expenditures as of this report, February, 787,000. What percent of the estimated cost is that? And I also want to see what percent of the project is complete. And we could either do it one of two ways by, I know with when you're doing the construction grants, you have to use percent of cost, and that should sort of line up with percent complete. So I'd like to see those one way or the other, percent of cost. And if it's percent of cost, not percent of job complete, then if we go with the cost, then I want to say, I would ask, okay, are we going to be on target with this budget? If not, then we need to add that updated cost and know when we're updating those. I would like to have really the percent of project complete. Where are we at percentage wise? And if we only have $750,000 left and we're only 30% done, we might have a problem, but maybe not, right? So that would be really helpful for me looking at this. That was it on that one. Francisco, wait, Bertha?
No, that's okay. Go
Go ahead, Francisco. Oh, you flipped over, gotcha.
A little confused on the water CIP loan. The first column, FY 23-24, it shows an entry for 2.6 and an entry for 2.0, but the total is only 2.6.
Which project number or which one?
Looking at the water CIP loan, the very first column,
Got it.
fiscal year 2023-2024, budgeted cash flow, 2.6 for Copper Cove and 2.0 for Jenny Lind, but the total is only 2.6. Whereas on
Thanks,
the
here
upper
we go.
one, everything added up, so I don't know why these didn't add up. Is that just
So Michael, can you guys
Yep,
look
we'll
at
get
those
back to
and
you on
see if
that.
there's just a typo, maybe
I
the
think it's just,
formula
I
got
forgot to add
formula
add
got
cells, yeah.
adjusted or something. Yes. But overall, you guys did great.
I actually think, I know there are some mistakes here, and that's not on our new employees, because they were
Well,
were
they all-
thrown into the fire. I think they've already made some improvements though, and I'm
Mike,
grateful for that.
you probably had a lot of people, cooks in the kitchen kind of thing with some of these. So maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to ask somebody to verify formulas, should there be a formula there and it's missing? Are these done in spreadsheets? Yeah. So, and a formula can disappear just like that when you have too many people on it. If you have time. All right, so any public comment online regarding any of the reports? The monthly reports? No?
There's not.
Anybody here? All right, man, we're ready to rock and roll. Okay, so moving on to item 4, Director of Admin Services comments. Do we have any more comments or no? All right, number 5, General Manager comments. Michael, you got 3 minutes.
In the interest of time, I mean, we do have comments, but I think probably
You
just
can wait.
introductions, or are we gonna do that? We're gonna do
We
that.
did introductions.
Okay.
Yeah,
No comment.
Okay.
thank you. All right,
Director.
6, Director comments. Bertha.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Last night was a White Pines Park Committee. We will be having the major cleanup April the 24th, I believe, because we always shoot for first weekend in May to open up, but that's Cinco de Mayo, so I'm not sure how effective that's going to be. So they're really enthused and up Highway 4. Everybody knows they're starting summer cleanup. So, make time. Like I did, I barely made it here
Yeah,
and I
we
left,
got hit by
Yeah,
that
You
today.
I left
cleaning up
it.
the park?
pardon?
Just tree trimming and
Yeah. Tree trimming and weeds and what have you. So, otherwise it's beautiful up the hill. Do you guys come up the hill or no?
Occasionally. I live in San Andreas, so I do.
Oh,
occasionally.
okay.
I live in Angels, so yeah.
Oh, okay. Come
Thank
up
you.
the hill.
thank you for being at the committee meeting last night. We couldn't have staff there, but we do try to make appearances there.
Right.
So
No, no,
It's an
and I
important,
said-
really important relationship.
Yeah, I did say to the committee, Kelly would have been here, except he's in Hawaii. So he'll have that on his schedule.
Yes.
next
Okay.
time.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm moving
thanks,
you along
bye.
because we're getting out of here in a minute. I really don't have anything to add other than welcome. We're really glad you're here and hopefully, we'll finish filling up the rest of the openings. We're glad you're here too. And, help, not put so much pressure on the other staff. So, the next committee meeting will be Tuesday, April 16th, 1 o'clock here in this office. And just as a reminder, we're going to bring back the CAP program policy edit. And we're hopefully going to have a accounts receivable aging report in the next meeting. And if you have time, we could look at the fee schedule if you have time. But I definitely want that CAP program first, but the fee schedule, if you have it, bring it on. Well, if you're bringing a fee schedule to us, I think it should be a separate item that we talk about
We
and then
won't
it
have
forwards to
updated-
the
We won't
board.
have the whole fee schedule.
Okay, no
updated by
worries.
Next month, I can.
Okay, all right, well then,
Spoiler
meeting
alert.
adjourned at 2:30. Thank you, everybody.